Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me, as always, is Ben Slinger.
Yes, I am. And noticeably absent this week is Alex Krause. We are back to Bitstorm. We're no longer Big Storm boys. Trevor, what happened?
Yeah, as we gave him the thumbs down in last week's episode, he never returned our phone calls. I hear that he's come back from the Antarctica now. But
he hasn't. He's just ghosting us. I don't know. Relationships, man.
Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed, Bitstorm 2.0.
Hope you enjoyed that weird fever dream of an episode
that
Alex contributed
Did it happen?
to. I'm not sure. Maybe that's it. Maybe he's not returning our calls because actually we don't know him and that never happened.
Does he actually know Alan Tudyk?
Does Alan Tudyk exist? Anyway, we're still in lockdown. In fact, we're in harsher lockdown than in previous weeks. So we're going to continue the theme
from 2 weeks ago.
From 2 weeks ago. But we're going to give it a bit of a different spin. No longer are we just restricting ourselves to games set in a small space. We'll release that restriction, I think, just a little bit, but instead, as Melbourne has had a curfew reintroduced, I think this week we will give our games a curfew, essentially, where
a time limit, as it were.
Some sort of time limit in every game where there is either something's going to happen after a certain amount of time, or there's just a certain point in time to be, relevant to the gameplay.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. We've each got a random word generator in front of us. On the count of 3, 2, 1, click. We're going to click. We're going to get some words, and we're going to take those words and turn them into some game designs. And when it doesn't work, or when it does work, and we've had our fill, we're going to throw the words again. And I just remembered I need to change back to a random phrase.
Oh yeah, that's a shame. My word was good. Maybe I'll still use it.
3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah.
Depressing pun.
Well,
that's just every single Bitstorm episode, isn't it? We come up with a game design, you come up with a depressing pun, and then we click again.
Yeah, that's sort of the game in a whole.
I might click again on that one then. Just imagine that the theme for today is depressing pun, and you won't be.
That was just Trevor just did that so he wouldn't have to watch me try to come up with one. All right, what do you got?
Unsolicited thoroughfare.
Okay. I'm going to use the single word that I got from before you switched that up because I think it suits well with our time limit. Repayment.
Repayment.
So, unsolicited thoroughfare. So, some sort of street, some sort of mall, some sort of area that people move through.
Some sort of no-through road.
Okay.
So people have made like a thoroughfare through this street that basically they've knocked down like this area, and you can now drive through.
Okay.
I like the idea of maybe the council have decided that they're going to actually put in like a toll booth, and they're going to allow the thoroughfare to exist.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a time limit that you've got to sort of get your groups together to try and stop this toll booth from happening.
Okay, so this is like a community who is banding together.
Yeah.
Maybe this is all set then, so we can really bring that time limit down. It's all set on the final day before this council decision is going to be made at 6 p.m.
Then it could actually be it's a race against the clock. It's a comedy of errors of things that are. Like, as you pass through the level, the car breaks down, and now you've got X amount of time that you've got to, run on foot, and then, you come across some kid with a skateboard, and you steal his skateboard, and...
Yeah, I think I kind of like the idea of this being a number of different almost mini-games, each time-based in that you can do them fairly fast, and that will mean you've got more time to do the following ones. And so it's almost like, okay, you've got 8 hours, there's 10 different little mini games that you've got to do, and you just have to get through them all successfully in a short enough time. And so the pressure's on once you start getting to the late ones. If like one of them for whatever took you twice as long as it should have because you kept messing up something, it's like, oh shit, now I gotta, and so it's almost a bit like a roguelike. You could have more mini games than you could fit in a single run, perhaps. And so it mixes them up. It's like, oh, we got the signature gathering game. We got the, running around and dropping flyers, or like riding the bike and throwing flyers putting flyers in letterboxes or something.
It's capturing horrible drivers who use this thing on camera, so that you can actually show that this thoroughfare is actually quite a dangerous thing to have happen, and therefore adding a tollway is going to make it even worse.
Yeah, well, let's simplify their goal. I think, I guess adding a toll booth is not. I'm just trying to think if that's something I guess that's something some people wouldn't want, because would it bring more traffic through, less traffic through, or it's going to traffic jam, it's going to jam up traffic? It's going to jam up stop traffic or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way I sort of see it. It's going to jam up traffic.
So it's essentially the government is cynically trying to make money because they know a lot of people come through there.
Mm-hmm.
The local people are worried that it's going to, okay, that's fine. So what could some of these mini games be then? What sort of gameplay are we talking here? I feel like it's a real challenge for us to come up with a roguelike set around local government activism.
I think you got to have some outlandish things
it's got to
potentially happen. Yeah, and if you fail too much, then literally they build a motorway right through the town, right through this thing. So it's basically you're now living on a 3-lane motorway sort of thing instead of in a cul-de-sac. So if you really screw this up,
is part of the roguelike element that it's not just this one road, or it is just this one road, but it's not just this one thing they want to do. Is it a number of things that they keep trying to do? And so each run is first we're trying to stop them from opening it up from a no through road. They want to make it a through road, right? They're going to knock down the park that's there currently so that cars can come through this previously residential area. All right, that's your first run, and maybe you've only got 3 mini games that you have to do.
And then the repayment can come in that because of all the work they're doing, they're going to up the rates so that you're paying for the fact that they're putting a road through this park. So you not only lose a park, but you also have to pay for it and get it paved and all this sort of stuff. And then,
I think that's it. I think you're essentially, you have these in between bits where it's here's what the council is trying to do now. First, it's just they're trying to knock down the park. It's no, we don't want that to happen. All right. Probably the first time you've got a few mini games, you'll probably succeed. Hey, we fought it off. They didn't knock down the park. Oh, wait. Now they've got lobbyists coming in. And
they're going after Bill's house.
And they're going after, or they're going after the park again. I don't know if it's one set things, or maybe you can have different ways that they can come to build this road. And so inevitably the road's going to be built because you can't pass all of them. But it essentially just gets more and more challenging, and you add different types of mini games and stuff. And then I think the roguelike aspect of leveling up between runs and stuff comes from your community support. Whatever percentage of the community you've got behind you at different times will, increase certain things in each mini game to make them slightly easier or whatever.
So that there's a potential for it to restart over.
Yeah.
Is there a Groundhog Day mechanic of where you wake up and go, oh, that was a weird dream, and then it starts from the start again so that you can...
I guess you'd have to have some sort of failure point, perhaps. Maybe literally you just move, and then it's I eventually had to move. We just could not live there anymore. We moved, started fresh. We're in a new residential, randomly generated residential street, and the whole thing starts over again.
Either way, you can get away with it. I kind of like the idea of it's a Groundhog Day situation, and every time that you start up a run, it starts from innocuous sort of, they're trying to take down the park and build a road.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps on getting worse from there until finally, if you happen to finish all 15 runs or whatever it is that you have to do in a row, they finally give up, and that's when you...
Yeah, there is some sort of success point.
Yeah.
You fought off the council.
And then, like in Binding of Isaac, he wakes up again, and he's in the very start again.
Now you've unlocked a new character, and they also live on a shitty street though. The government's trying to do this. Yeah, that's kind of neat. I don't know exactly what the mini games would be. Do you think they'd be sort of arcadey thing? What would we...
Yeah, I kind of think just a longer version of a WarioWare sort of mini game.
Yeah, or just varied mechanics. mostly kind of Twitch-based gameplay, essentially.
Yeah, because I can imagine him having the signature sheet that he has to put the pen in someone's hand and then move the paper to get them to sign. Because they're like, I'm not signing it. And then you move the paper and it's like, the pen's just staying still, but the paper's actually
You've got all these different techniques as you come across people on the street to get them to sign, yeah.
3 to 1 click.
Yeah.
That was an insane game.
I think we managed a local government activism roguelike. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Decreasing standpoint.
Immortal launching.
So you have until a certain time to yeet a god.
Yes. Now, do you play the immortal god, and therefore you're trying to stop yourself from being yeeted, and you've got to last a certain time out? Or
maybe.
So I'm just imagining that his soapbox that he's standing on to sort of say all this stuff is just slowly like his arguments are just getting worse as he talks.
Well, I wonder if that's a bit less literal and it's more like, gods, the whole thing of gods needing people to believe in them or to worship them, that the way that you are launching this god, or the way that you are like making them weak enough that you can yeet them into space or whatever you're trying to do.
Yeet them into the sun.
Is that their followers are decreasing, and thus their standpoint in like the godly realm is lessening.
Okay, what happens if the time reaches and the god isn't yeeted into the sun?
I mean, mass smiting.
Mass smiting, or the whole planet becomes enslaved to this god as they've reached critical mass, sort of thing. I think the run has to be over. Like, he smites you basically as one of the first things if the time runs out.
I'm trying to think of the gameplay here, because I'm almost picturing this as a bit more of a longer term. Like, yes, there's a time limit, but a bit like something like Frostpunk or something, where it's actually around building up the society around this god. Like, maybe there's this huge statue, and it could be one of a variety of different gods, and that's where the game starts. And there are priests.
First question. Yeah. Before you go into it.
Okay.
Is this god like got randomly generated like attributes?
I mean, why not? Yes.
So basically, if you want to find out what attributes they are, you sort of look at the statue and there's a plaque and it sort of says, God of Lies or something like that.
Well, I wonder if you almost have to find that out over a little bit. Like the start of this game, you've got the statue, you've got a few small huts and stuff around. Like, it's a new, maybe this statue's come out of nowhere
overnight
or something. And there is a priest. There's a priest of this god who claims to speak to this god. And yes, we randomly generate, and I like the idea of, perhaps in an Egyptian style or in different things where the different parts of the god are made up from maybe different animals or different, things. And that plays a part into what they are essentially the god of, or what their divine attributes are. But this priest is bringing people in from your community, but perhaps I guess I'm not sure how to communicate this to the player, but like the player knows actually this is like, this god is going to do something horrible. Like, they're going to just cause a mass genocide after a certain amount of time. And so your goal here is actually to build up society and educate people in a way that they're not relying on the priesthood, but there's a pushback of what that priesthood and religion gives them.
Okay. So one of the things that has popped into my mind is each of these random gods is randomly assigned 2 to 4 heralds. So basically things that if all these heralds actually are able to come together and they weren't discovered in time, basically the god is going to turn up in the center of the circle, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you've got to weaken the heralds through, finding out, this one, I've got to find a kid who's got 666, written on the back of his head, kind of like an Antichrist thing. But then there's other ones where it's like, you got to find a bird that shits on the statue every morning at like noon or something like that.
Yeah. I like that idea of having to find different signs and different things. Because
it's randomly assigned.
This as a town built, like basically a town management sort of game, like a bit of a. What are some recent ones? Like Before We Leave, or there was one called what's the one with the little robots? You don't play many of these games, so you probably haven't played it. But the something anyway, The Colonists, I think, and it doesn't have to be super serious. Like it can be a little whimsical as well. But I'm picturing, your little people walking around and building things, and you're placing roads and placing buildings that are affecting the worshipping in different ways. They're affecting the townspeople in different ways, and the balance is going back and forth between the religion and the people who want to eat the god, to the point that you are building up resources to literally like fling this statue as far away as you can.
I would like to counter that with an action adventure in which you're going in and you're doing some investigation sort of stuff, talking to the priest and talking to other individual people, trying to get the lowdown of what these heralds are, and then you're effectively dark souling your way all the way through these heralds. Like you've got to actually defeat them, and then at the end you get to yeet the god into space because you become so powerful that you're actually a god now.
Okay, that's pretty good. Maybe we compromise. Yes, it's an action adventure, but Fable style. Okay, you can like buy and alter the town in different ways as your adventures go on.
And you become a capitalist god.
You can do, or you can just like...
You don't realize that the god that they're actually foreseeing coming into power is actually, you.
It's actually you. It's you the whole time.
I like that.
Yeah.
I also like the idea of,
I just like saying yeeting a god. It's just...
It also sounds kind of rude.
Ooh. 3, 2, 1, click. Mountain dog.
Painless silicon.
Painless silicon. Okay. All right. I think this is a bit of a tearjerker. And I think this is... Like, when I thought mountain dog, I was like, okay, like... Someone on snow-capped mountains with their dog.
Mm-hmm.
They're up there for some reason. Maybe silicon comes from like some sort of
90s tech. is what I started thinking about.
It could be.
A hermit up on a mountain with his only companion, a dog, and a like 386.
I was thinking whether there was some sort of geological, like silicate rocks or something that you were
tapping into to superpower your 386.
You were searching for or something. Okay, it can be both.
Because you said mountain painless. So I think that's all about the way that the dog ends up dying. Is sort of like he goes away in his sleep, sort of thing. Yes.
Yes.
That's where you were going with that.
Yes, it was. And that's the time limit as well, right? Like it's inevitable that this dog is going to die.
Yeah. And what you're trying to do is create, using your 386 and QBasic, you're trying to create like a network of silicate, in this mountain that can actually hold the consciousness of your dog.
I like that. You're essentially like a mad scientist of sorts. Like you are a mad genius
from Silicon Valley.
Yeah. You've 30 years ago you sold off your Web 2.0 company. So maybe we said it in like the 2000, I guess.
No, he's got a 386. So therefore he's one of the original developers of like
of an operating system.
XT 286 386 sort of processor family.
All right.
Working for original Intel.
He's essentially a Steve Wozniak type. So maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. He like helped to invent the most popular operating system of all time, but left the company too early, regretted it so badly that he moved up to the mountains and became a hermit.
Or you don't even have to explain why he became a hermit. I think
it comes out.
You know that he did, and he's still got a 386. So that's around the time that he went up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe you'd probably bring this out as the story goes. You can maybe explore this stuff. You can go and read through emails and things using good old Microsoft Outlook on Windows 3.1. Was that a thing then? I can't remember.
No, it was not.
There was a mail app, though.
I don't know whether Windows for Workgroups was out when the 386 was out. That's the only way that Windows 3.11 would have actually worked with the network. And I don't think that he's getting like a telephone wire all the way to the top of his...
Well, but he said he's building like networks of stuff in the mountain. I think he's got
using
some
silicon to like silicate rock or whatever to build a network.
We're making it up. I'm just thinking we might need some sort of communication with the mainland, as it were, or with the downland from this mountain.
The lower land.
The lowlands. I don't make my way to the lowlands anymore.
Is Target still a thing?
What do you mean Safeway is now Woolworths?
Oh, I will never head down from the Blue Mountains again.
I think it was always Woolworths in New South Wales.
Blue Mountains go all the way down. The Dandenongs are actually part of the Blue Mountains. That's
okay, but we don't refer to them as such. So, all right. So this is obviously a bit of a story-based thing. Do we just kind of... Is this guy just kind of pottering around his house in the beginning and like having conversations with his dog, using the computer to check his email,
trying to make sure that the dog is feeling good in between? Like, I'm trying to think of if you remember Pony Island, how they had like those kind of programming games where you had to like move the thing through the code and get to like the end. Yeah. I kind of see, a QBasic-esque sort of thing where you see something going through and it gets pushed on.
You're doing little logic puzzles that, or like mini games disguised as coding things. Yeah.
Yeah. Very simple, but there's a story behind it as to the reason why you're doing all this coding is that you're trying to perfect this system. And finish this system.
Can we reveal a lot of this through kind of environmental storytelling where you can go through, you've got emails there from like your vet friend sort of alluding to your dog's condition. You've got, the conversations with the dog itself. And
now, does the dog talk back? But it's all in his mind. So he's pretending that this conversation's happening with the dog. Or he's kind of like a Dr. Dolittle type.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how would be best to do that. Because I feel like it's sadder if the dog doesn't have a like human like personality. If they're just a dog and you do good like expressions and stuff, but they're a dog, because then they're more vulnerable. Then there's but perhaps you have some sort of way that he's like telling how the dog is thinking or something. Maybe as part of this, as like a precursor to shifting this dog's intelligence into the mountain, basically becoming the mountain, an actual mountain dog. He's created some sort of device that can like sort of read the brainwaves of the dog in some way, and you just get these like blurry pictures of what the dog is thinking or feeling, or like changes colors or something. You've got a little
changes colors and maybe shows a little icon thing. Shows a little emoticon. Yeah. He's created like these emoticons out of ASCII art, because I reckon that's what he would have been thinking about, like how best to actually do this with the technology that he had.
He's not even using a like point and click OS. He's just all on the command line.
Oh yeah, it's all command line. Like I said Q basic. I mean, there's a reason why I said Q basic, and it's because it's like one of the simplest interfaces. But you know, that's the only interpreter that he actually had remaining on his PC that actually still works.
Yeah.
Okay, skipping ahead to the ending.
Yeah.
The dog dies.
Yes.
And, you know, he's very sad. And depending on how you went in the last level, there's a couple of different ways the game can sort of end, but you have to kind of watch through the credits. And as you're watching through the credits, there's just a different ending scene. And that's whether that other monitor comes to life and shows.
Oh, and you still get those now you're reading the feelings from the mountain. It's like, oh yes, it's survived. Yeah, that's cool.
So that's the only way that you can tell that it actually worked, because the whole thing kind of blew out the 386 that's connected to the computer. So you're not sure how
you're not getting
any
diagnostics out or anything.
But then that last monitor sort of just comes to life and just shows, you know, like a heart ASCII art or something like that.
With the nice like cool blue color that meant happy or whatever that you managed to translate the general emotions. Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm just imagining a PC speaker, like, you know, doing the sort of like, you know, sort of like the heartbeat. But in that really harsh PC speaker town.
That'd be horrible. That's awful. What if you don't succeed? Do we just leave?
It stays black.
It just stays black. Just this screen just never turns on. So you've got these people like that you haven't. Yeah, the player doesn't know. So you've just got these people sitting there waiting, hoping desperately for this screen to turn on, and then we just like bump them out to the main menu. It's like, nah, sorry.
Or as I remember the last time that we were actually at Global Game Jam, like, when some of these games for the keynote speaker that she did, it does, like, there was no no main menu to go back to. It just quit to DOS.
Yeah.
and
we didn't have time to put a menu in.
This just crashes and says, you know, and just quit straight out to Windows. And
it actually crashes. We actually like throw an error. But the error just says, woof.
And then there's a secret like ending where both the guy and the dog both die, and they end up in the mountain together.
They're both in the mountain. There's one secret ending where you accidentally reverse it, and now the mountain's in the dog. Frequently.
I thought when you said reverse it, you were going to say, and now the dog is in the man.
That could work too. Delicious annoyance.
Listening, accounting.
I'm trying to think if the annoyance itself is delicious or if I separate those out and it's something to do with donuts.
See, now I'm thinking, are you a vampire and you're listening to people talk, but all the time all you're seeing is like the blood pumping in their veins, and you're getting annoyed because you're like, this is dinner and I've got to, you know, play nice and all this sort of stuff, so until I can get them alone and then I can eat them. And it's sort of like you're trying to account for your whereabouts so that people don't realize that you're a vampire. And
no, I think you're just an accountant. I think that's just your like job. Maybe you're an emotional vampire, like the character in What We Do in the Shadows.
See, I've been watching Buffy a lot, so I'm very much in the
vampire space.
The vampire space. And I'm picturing this sort of character just sitting there listening, just going,
I do like the visuals of in that kind of almost that semi Mortal Kombat or sniper. What's that sniper game? Anyway, of like zooming through the body to see essentially you get an X-ray view of their jugular.
Of just the heart beating.
Or of their heart. Yeah.
You just the blood just sort of
circulating through them. You've got blood vision that you can't turn off when you get too hungry.
Yeah, I love the idea of the time limit is literally you're going to starve to death, or you're going to become, sort of ravenous and insatiable sort of thing, and show yourself to everyone if you don't get food.
Yeah, either that or the time limit is just like dusk or dawn or whatever. Like either you're trying to survive long enough where you can go out and hunt properly.
Mm-hmm.
So is this almost just like a sort of dialogue-driven adventure sort of game in a way, based around an office? Like, you're a vampire, you work in an office.
You can work from home because everyone's in work from home things now. So you can work from, your crypt or wherever you're working from. You got Wi-Fi from the gravedigger's shack.
You've got Gordash bringing you blood every night.
Well, no, you got to go out and get it. So you've got a time limit because you've still got a job to go to. That means you're awake all day. You can only go out for food at night, and therefore you got to be in bed by midnight. Otherwise,
yeah, I think it is. That's where I was going. I don't know that we just do work from home, because I think the challenge there was
he has to go into the office every now and again.
He has to go into the office.
So he's got to lather up with SPF 500.
Well, maybe, or we just ignore the sunlight thing, and it's just more that he has he's a vampire in that he needs to drink blood. But because I like the mundane of the day-to-day office job. You're in cubicles. You're like you've got relationships with the people in this office, but it does eventually get to the point where you have to, because you haven't managed things well enough, you have to decide which of one of them to eat. Because you're not going to make it to the end of the day. It's like that 3 p.m. slump, except it's I need blood.
You went out for drinks on Friday night, right?
Yeah. And
because they all expected you to be up there, going drink for drink with them, you didn't have time to go out and get your 7 p.m. dinner.
Mm-hmm.
You've now got to choose. Do I choose Sally from accounting?
Yeah.
She works with me. She's right beside me. Or do I choose, Harold from HR or
Gavin from
the janitorial
change
squad.
Management.
Change management.
Yeah, well, I think I very much like the idea of kind of bringing in some of those horrible office tropes of, yes, like being pressured to go out for drinks, or, getting through that 3 p.m. slump, or endless meeting after meeting where all you can focus on is the blood pumping through your manager's veins.
So do we actually bury the lead that, we kind of treat our main guy, whatever his name is, maybe it's just Gary, like the simplest, typical accountant name that you could ever think of. And, you think of him as an introvert as it's going through, and you're seeing him, unreliable narrator going through stuff until the Friday night drinks, when he gets all of a sudden really hungry and goes to town on like a waitress or something like that, and basically sucks as much blood out of it.
You think he's drunk and is hitting on her inappropriately, but then yes, he just drains her.
And that was your intro mission, and then it becomes kind of like a half point and click, half Hitman-esque sort of thing, in which you're kind of stalking your prey. You can actually have a bit of dialogue stuff and do some basic.
But I think there's some
Hitman-esque
time management stuff in there too, right? Like, you still have to do your job. You can't afford to lose your job, so you have to make sure you're fed enough before a long meeting, because otherwise you might not make it to the end.
Yeah, and depending on what the meeting's on, like if the meeting's on something that you're actually interested in, then, maybe okay. Like
Is it ever?
the financials, they're all good. But if it's about, why do we all have to be in this change management meeting? Damn you.
God damn it, Gavin. Can't we just do things without having to go through this stupid process? I'm going to eat you.
It's got nothing to do with my job.
This could have been an email.
What do you mean, new ways of working?
I've been
Agile,
working
shift
this way
left.
for 300 years. 30 years.
When I was young, I used an abacus.
When I was a kid, they hadn't even invented the abacus or pens.
Or numbers.
We had to add things up in the dirt. And if a cow came past and messed it up, then we'd start it all over. All right, 3, 2, 1, click.
I once had to isolate myself during the Black Plague. Last year in 2020 with the plague, yes.
Wait, did I say 1918? I meant 2018. No, wait. Anyway.
That doesn't work. Shit.
3, 2, 1, click. What do you got?
I'm going to click again because I don't want those words.
Sure.
Although it's actually not too bad. Like, I'll put it up there and you can choose.
Sure.
You can. Yeah. No.
Give me your first ones first. We'll see.
Outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
Feminist.
Okay. Reasonable entry. Maybe not. I'm not sure about that combination. Give me your others.
Infantile. Documentary. I kind of don't like the idea of reasonable entry into infantile either. So maybe one
Maybe
more.
let's both click again. Wide graph.
Slipping, stripping.
Slipping, stripping. Slipping, then stripping. Well, maybe... Hang on. What? Say your words again.
Slipping, stripping.
Reasonable entry. This is about... The time limit here is that...
You're playing a bouncer.
At this strip club, the bar shuts at 2 a.m. Last call.
You've got to. Well, what are you? Are you the bouncer or are you the bartender? And it's an overcooked
or are you the
sort of
main
thing.
Event?
Well, no, I was thinking you're the bartender and you're doing an overcooked of, having to get drinks ready and hand them out to people. And it's obviously you're trying to keep the waitresses keep coming to you with orders.
It's tapper, but it's stripper, like tapper.
Yeah.
But stripper.
But instead of it, you're going up the
instead of going between the different sort of bar sections, you're going along a traditional.
Yeah. So you've got waitresses giving you orders all the time that you got to keep on top of because, it's kind of like Cook Serve Delicious where, you got certain orders, but it's drink orders.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the patrons along the bar who they're trying to see the talent, but if they're spending too much time with you, they're not going to spend too much money. Obviously, there's a 2-drink minimum. And if they try to leave, then the bouncer is going to send them back over to you. And you got to get them their second drink quick.
So how much are you having to keep track of as the bartender here then?
I think with a 2-drink minimum, you got to actually stamp their hand. So basically, if they don't have 2 stamps on their hands, then you know that they haven't had their 2 drinks. So there's not so much that you got to track it. It's more the fact that
yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything we can bring in here around the dynamics at a bar is the thing. If you don't serve the guy who's trying to hit on a woman at the bar, and I'm picturing that this is, while yes, maybe it's a strip joint, it's a unisex strip joint. We've got all sorts of stuff going up on stage. Anyone's there.
Classy.
It's classy, totally. You maybe want to get that girl her drink quicker because she's trying to get away from the creepy guy. It's there's different dynamics around what's happening at the bar. So maybe it's not quite as frantic as a Cook Serve Delicious where you're literally having to do 4 different orders at once to get them out on time for them not to be pissed off at you. It's more, okay, you might get 1 or 2 at a time, but it's also keeping track of the different people at the bar because they might hang around for a few drinks.
Mm-hmm.
They might want to talk to you. You might be there might be little different conversations that are just represented by, you can sort of read their moods or something of the people at the bar.
Okay, one more little wrinkle.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in VR.
Okay.
Just because I want to be able to do cocktail co-op with my mate and throw him a bottle and he just, grabs it out of the air and...
There's definitely a bartending VR game, right?
Yeah, but we're talking about bartending in a strip joint. Like, this is more about, you're being... Stop looking for bartending games
I was just
in
curious
VR.
Now. I was just curious.
Yes, there are games like that.
I just have never tried them.
A lot of the time they end up being shooting. This is all about, bartending management at a strip joint. So you can be distracted by looking over at the talent.
Yeah.
But that's not, the whole idea is that you're keeping track of, 2-drink minimums and all this sort of stuff and making sure that you stamp their hand and talking to the young lady, making sure that she's okay when she had had the guy coming up and harassing her, thinking that, she was part of the group here, but she's just here with her, with like a bachelorette party or something like that.
Yeah. So how deep do we go with these characters and the recurring characters? Is there sort of almost a bit of a story happening that you might unravel as you're playing, or is it more systems based than that?
Okay. You might hit me here, but it's Papers, Please as a bartender job. So your first thing is always going to be like, all you're doing is pouring beers.
So
and then they gradually add cocktails and new things, and it's all about, trying to remember the order, and you're trying to go through as many as you can while helping some people out and refusing service at the bar. Check IDs? Responsible service about alcohol, serving IDs, checking IDs.
Not trying to rip off Not Tonight as well, which already was taking the Papers, Please thing to IDs, when it's not all about IDs. It's mostly about remembering drinks.
Technically, you shouldn't have to be checking IDs because if the bouncer did their fucking job, you'd be fine.
Yeah, but so it's only if they're particularly suspicious.
It's only if Basil is on, because Basil, he never checks IDs because he's a fucking dickhead.
Right. That's
so
Basil is too influenced by pretty young teenagers.
Yes. Start of the night, you have a roster as to who's on for the night.
Yeah.
And the first name that you go to, security, Basil. Fuck, I need to check ID all night. Like, you just know that from the last time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, I like that, because I like that you can have regulars coming back, but you've got a good stream of just randos, essentially. Who
could you imagine, after you've served someone 3 or 4 times, they say the usual.
Right. And
you've got to remember what they usually like.
Is there a way to look it up, though, in case you completely forget? Yeah. But it just obviously takes you longer. They're gonna maybe get frustrated or whatever.
Well, I think regulars, they have they've got almost like the Hall of Fame on the back. It actually says what their regular drink is and that sort of stuff. So you can go to that and go, oh yeah, this is Frank. He likes this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
Cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. It's an
you know what I'm thinking?
What?
This is the game for the rest of the night. This is the game for the rest of the night.
We can go deeper on this, and I mean,
because I love Papers, Please. You know that
the Papers, Please formula. Really
thank you, Lucas
what you can do with relatively mundane job based things and still make them fun. Yes,
this is the second in the lockdown. This is the second in the lockdown that we've done a Papers, Please game
as like a big,
totally different, but as the main deep dive.
Yeah, well, let's think about how we can. Obviously, we're taking the Papers, Please from the level of like you're sort of doing administrative-ish stuff, and we're adding these different complexities on every day, and there are story elements that flow through it.
And the good thing is, you can actually keep the cocktails very simple in the fact that, it's, a little bit of vodka and some some Coke, and people don't mind if you put a little bit of extra vodka in there. But then the boss is saying you need to water down the vodka.
Yeah, well, and I think like real bartenders, I think you're measured on your pours.
I've never been a bartender, so
you are balancing.
I've never been a bartender, but I'm imagining
neither have I, but I know
liquid mechanics is getting better. It's got to be getting better.
Well, I think it's more just, if you've tipped it a certain amount, you measure how much it would have come out. Yes. Although you do also, if it's over the if it's over the glass or not over the glass, you also measure spillage. And then, if you've got a certain threshold of spillage and stuff as well. But that like, Janice will tip me, well, if I am generous with the pours for her drinks kind of thing. So it's like, okay, do I balance that up against the fact that I might be dinged on my paycheck if I go over a certain amount of, over pouring or whatever.
And if anyone sort of asks how they actually tell, there's a camera. That's all you need. Like, there's a camera looking down.
Well, I'm pretty sure in real situations, I'm pretty sure they will they measure they know what's in the bottles, and they know what drinks were sold.
Water.
Well, that could
vodka. You just add water.
That could be part of it. Maybe you can water down the drinks so that it looks like you haven't been overpouring. But the challenge then is if customers start to notice, they're going to tip you less or they're going to get pissed off. Like,
you didn't realize that that's the same bottle of vodka that you've had for the last 3 nights, and you filled it up with a lot of water.
Yeah, exactly. If you haven't been paying attention to how much you're watering it down.
And then just as a little bit of an extra thing, you have someone who's really into homeopathy who gets totally blasted and like
you've got that one special bottle of vodka that you've just been watering down for weeks, and then
they come in and they die.
In,
like,
and you somehow die of alcohol poisoning.
It's so diluted that you kill them. They immediately go to 1.0 blood alcohol level.
Yeah.
100% blood alcohol level, because it was so strong. You diluted it so much.
I mean, that's as logical as what they think happened. So, yep.
Don't you love that?
Yes. And I love that you could have little moments like that in there. There are definitely just different storylines you can play out then.
Oh, the worst part was
regulars and things.
That was actually the owner's wife.
Right.
And now he knows.
And he knows you've been watering it down. He sent
down.
her there specifically because he suspected. And it's like, if you've been watering down, my wife's going to die. I'm going to know.
How about boyfriend? Because it doesn't feel so gross then.
Yeah, well, yeah. Something.
Okay, other things that happen in the game. You can obviously be fired.
Yeah. Are you always, I know we started off with stripping and slipping. Are you always employed at the same place, or is this a situation like Not Tonight where you could maybe work at different venues and so you get different types of drinks, different types of customers?
One of the nights you get given after a while, maybe your 17th night in, they're saying be on the lookout for someone slipping stuff into drinks.
Yep.
And so now it's all about, we offer free drinks to people who have had, someone slip something into their drinks. It's only ever going to happen at the bar.
Mm.
So you have to actually sort of catch them and you can basically look at the drink or point your thing at the drink and hit a button and it flags it as drugged. And that way you can.
You've essentially said, don't drink that.
And effectively, if they go to take it, the waitress beside you or whatever takes over and says, no, someone slipped something into that. I'm gonna take that aside. I kind of like that idea about having that.
That's an interesting challenge. Where I was thinking of going there as well is, and this is a little bit on the less realistic side, obviously, but, you know, I kind of like having some of these storylines in there, is like someone comes up to you and says, it like gives you something and says, I need you to slip this into such and such a person's drink. But like you've got like a vague description of them or whatever, because they're like a super villain. This is essentially a James Bond situation of like, I need you to drug this person so I can arrest them or whatever. They're super dangerous.
And it happens to be the exact same description as the senator that is planning on
something like that.
Coming in
basically, you're going to have to figure out. You're going to have to make a decision of, do I risk this?
They come in with Secret Service around them. Like that's how super serious they are.
Yeah,
it's like super serial.
Yeah, and you risk getting caught as well. I think there is a chance, like you have to wait for like the camera to rotate, or you have to quickly serve all the other people's drinks so nobody else is at the bar or something. And
so I think, as we were sort of talking before, occasionally there is a waitress who comes up and asks for X number of drinks. Those drinks are always going to be simplified. There's just a lot of them usually that you've got to try and
essentially get the count right. It's like, I need to pop the top off 6 beers and pour, 3 vodkas from the, or pour like 3 things from the soda gun or something or whatever, right? Like, yeah.
It's never more than that, but it's about getting the numbers and maybe the brands of beer right. Like there's 3 different brands of beer and they kind of sound similar.
Yeah, or it's just, yeah. One's called Green's beer, but it's a blue bottle, and then the green bottle is actually, Bennigan's or whatever. I don't know. Like, it's
Muller and Muller Light. Yeah, I really like this idea. I can see so many different things that you could do with this game that, you're sort of dealing with. In Papers, Please, it was how many people could you get through in your day? And, that depends on how much you actually got paid. But your, any overspills or anything like that gets taken out of your paycheck. So basically you need to take care with all these things.
Yeah.
Or you can start, coming up with interesting ways of refilling, like, oh, I dropped a bottle. So get one of the other bottles that you finished before out of the trash and fill up with water.
Yeah.
And
as long as the camera's not pointing your way. Yeah, I like that. And I like, similar to Papers, Please and Not Tonight, that as the days go on, you will start getting like things that will help you in some ways to do things faster. It's like, the manager finally splurged on, the tops where you can get a controlled pour out of them. So it will stop at a certain point automatically. You don't need
to use the shot glass anymore to actually.
Yeah, exactly. You can just sort of do it one-handed and just like, yep, and get exact amounts.
So you can actually be doing 2 at a time instead of having to do 1.
Yeah.
You actually get like a bar hand to come along and, help wipe down spills and that sort of stuff, because that's the other thing. You need to keep your bar tidy so you can get a barkeep, but any breakages or stuff that he sort of causes comes out of your wages.
Right. So you have to choose to like spend money on leveling him up or something, or like improving his skills so he makes less mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to stock up the beer nuts.
Mm-hmm.
The little things of nuts that.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you choose? Can you put nuts or pretzels or M&Ms?
Yeah, they do M&Ms, but you got to be careful of that one guy who tries to slip Skittles in there, because people don't like it when they're expecting chocolate and they all of a sudden get a really hard, fruity chew.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still remember one of our, this is going on an aside, one of our weekends away where we decided to go the lucky dip, and
did we just mix M&Ms and Skittles?
A bag of M&Ms, a bag of Skittles, same bowl.
That's right.
Stir around. That was a fun weekend. I still remember going for a handful and just forgetting that we did it later on. Like going, oh my God, chocolate and fruit. That doesn't work.
Just the like relative hardness of each one too.
And the fact that Skittles are a lot harder than the M&Ms that you were expecting to eat. Or
exactly.
The M&Ms are a lot softer than what you were expecting the Skittles
you got to do
be.
a big chew and just like splat.
Splat. Oh, there's chocolate everywhere. Okay, what else can happen in this game? Obviously, if Basil's on, you kind of fucked with...
Yeah, so you're checking IDs here and there. You can risk that. If they look old enough, you can make a decision. People come in with fake beards sometimes, though, so you have to be on the lookout for that. You have to be on the lookout for 3 little kids in a trench coat.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, they're very convincing.
Really are. I mean, they kind of look like one of the members of ZZ Top with a massive beard and a long coat, but
yeah, but
you can tell you can always tell by the giggles. There's
and the way the end of the beard twitches sometimes because they're like trying to look out from behind it.
Okay, how do tips work for the strippers on stage? Do their tips go up depending on how much social lubricant you've been able to put into the public?
That's interesting. That could be an interesting factor. Whoever's on stage, like it would actually track, like, oh, you did really well when Big Billy was on stage, and so he's really pleased with you. But you fucked up a few times. When Candy Cane was up there, and so she's, pissed with you.
She doesn't like it when you drop bottles, and you dropped a bottle as she was upside down on the stripper pole, and she fell and broke her nose.
Oh God. I do like that extra element of what you're doing affecting what's happening on stage to a certain degree. Yeah, that could be, even if it's just sort of the mood of the crowd.
Do you think that there's like a basic fight mitigation that you have to do in like some parts of it? Like if someone bumps into someone and spills their beers, you got to try and you can either let the fight happen and the strippers aren't going to be happy with you, or you repour all their drinks and that comes out of your wage.
Comes out of your wage, or at least just you've had to take the time to like to stop the fight and maybe repour drinks. And so you're going to, now you've got other people who you haven't been able to serve on time. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting little things we could put in there.
Ooh, I'm now imagining that they get a new stripper in and her whole shtick is that everything has to be dark except for her. So therefore
right.
you're now having to do this with like a little flashlight.
Go off the glint of the bottles.
Trying to do it just off of like a little flashlight instead of the big sort of bar atmosphere. So to look at people, you're sort of looking up at their faces with the flashlight and stuff.
There's a like Magic Mike style group who just has a huge loud soundtrack that goes along with it, so you can't hear any of the orders. They have to gesture at you. They have to like two fingers up, point at a beer, 3 fingers up. I don't know, point at a menu to tell you what they want.
Yeah.
Nobody can get your attention.
So many cool things here that, like, we hadn't really thought about.
Yeah.
Until, we sort of get into it and it's like, wow, to me, I really want to play this game. I am annoyed that this thing will never exist, like a lot of things right now.
I think, I definitely think, even if you didn't do all the stuff we were talking about, there is space for even if it's not bartending, I don't think I've seen a Papers, Please-esque VR experience. And I think bartending is a good candidate for that sort of gameplay for sure.
I think they could be very basic graphics. It doesn't have to be super, realistic or anything like that. Yeah. Atmosphere, lighting is key. The actual look of the people, not so much. Like
they probably don't even.
They
could
be Minecraft people. They could be Minecraft people, as far as you're concerned.
I was thinking more of a stylized sort of look, but
you could even have like paper cutout sort of people that they've got no depth to them.
Yeah.
But they're just sort of like walking along, kind of like when we were talking about doing our VR thing, that we kind of had pasted on in front a picture of our faces. Like, pretty much that's all you need. You just need a picture of people's faces, and they always happen to be looking at you. And if they need to look off to the side, South Park-esque, you know, it just shows the slightly different thing of them looking off to the side, but you see now the side of their head and stuff.
Or you could do I'm
picturing Saddam Hussein
some
from
of those games
South
like
Park.
Jazz Punk and stuff, which is a bit more reminiscent of like Minecraft or whatever, but like blocky figures, they still manage to do quite good expression, like be quite expressive, I guess.
Yeah, this is cool. I want to play this, Ben. When you become a millionaire, I want you to make this game.
All right, it's a deal.
Become a millionaire now, please. Make the game.
It's unfortunately, I need to make the game to become a millionaire.
Start then.
It's sort of a vicious
start your bastard.
catch-22 kind of deal.
Start. And the time limit comes in that each night, you know, goes for X number of minutes. And that's the whole night.
Yeah, of course. Cool. All right. I think we will end it there.
Unfortunately.
Thank you for joining us again. Well, I don't know if it's again. This could be your first episode. Thank you for joining us this week. Yeah, if so, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Listen to last week's episode. We had a new guy who joined the show, and he hasn't called us back.
Yeah. If you have seen Alex Krauss, tell him to text us at least. Like, let us know he's
Return
okay.
our phone calls, please.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us again this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us online, you can go to podchaser.com/Bitstorm. Listen to all of our previous episodes there. Shoot us a review. Let us know what you thought.
And finally, we'd like to thank the wonderful musicians at Kuradust for allowing us to use the song Mount Defiance off the album Containment Failure for our opener and closer every single week.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And, oh my lord, Yeet!